അവിടുന്ന് വൈകുന്നേരം വേണമെങ്കിൽ എന്നോട്
Hey everyone, it's Sam, and welcome back to the 911 Nonsense podcast. To stay in the loop, learn about upcoming guests, and join in the conversations with the Noon community, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hey, if you like what you hear in this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to us. Sarah Lorenzini, a rapid response nurse, educator, and host of Rapid Response RN, joins us today to share her journey through 21 years of nursing. From fighting through the chaos of emergency medicine to mentoring the next generation of nurses, Sarah opens up about the highs, the heartbreaks, and the lessons that shaped her career. She also discusses the personal impact of healthcare, from losing a friend to COVID-19, facing her own genetic heart condition, and her mission to change the culture of nursing through education and mentorship. Don't miss this powerful conversation. Let's get started. All right, everybody, we have Sarah here today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Sam. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm excited to have you here. You're pretty popular. You're doing some really cool things in the medical field right now. Can I go ahead and get an introduction?
Sure. So I'm Sarah Lorenzini. I am a rapid response nurse and educator, been a nurse for 21 years this month, actually, which is crazy to even say that out loud. I love responding to emergencies and I love teaching about them just as much. So outside of my day job at the hospital, I also have a podcast called Rapid Response RN. It is not just for RNs, though. I like regret naming it that, but now it's like branded and out there and I can't fix it. But it really is just every episode I share a real life story of a patient that I've cared for, obviously HIPAA appropriate, and then I use the story to break down the pathophysiology, the pharmacology, the healthcare professional's role in caring for that particular emergency. It's a labor of love, and I enjoy doing it for sure.
That's so cool. What a neat idea and a neat breakdown. And it's great for people who are just coming into the field or people who have been in the field for 20 plus years, like you and me. So that's awesome that you're doing that. Do you find that that brings you a lot of purpose?
It really does. So before I was the rapid response supervisor, which is what I'm currently doing, I was the ER nurse educator. So for 5 years, I had educator on my badge. Is what I did all day long, was just educate. And then I left that educator role with COVID and came to a more bedside role. Well, then I missed being an educator. It was actually my husband who was like, well, why don't you start a podcast? Then doesn't matter what's on your badge at work. You just get to educate whenever you want to, which I laughed at because anyone that knows me knows I am like the least tech savvy person. So for me to start a podcast is just like crazy idea. But me and a $15 mic and literally a closet, we recorded first couple episodes and they did very well. I think what kept me going, because it is a lot of work, as you know, to have a podcast. Yes. What keeps me going is all the messages I get from nurses who are like, oh my gosh, Sarah, I had that exact patient you talked about in episode 15, and I knew what to do. I was prepared and I advocated for the patient and I knew the drugs and I was so ready for it. You helped me save a life. Like when I hear that, I mean, that just like warms my educator heart, my nursing heart. I love the opportunity to give back to healthcare professionals through a microphone in a closet. Now, as you can see, I've turned the closet into a much better recording space, but literally my first 30 episodes were me with coats and luggage all around me recording in the dark after my kids go to bed. But it has evolved into what is now a part-time job for me. So I work at the hospital part-time, and then I do the podcast part-time, and it's like the best of both worlds. I get to be at the bedside and I get to talk about how much I love the bedside.
That's amazing. And you speak with such passion. It shines through. I see that. That's amazing. Speaking of kids, you have a handful, right?
I would say so. Yeah, a handful. I have 5 children. Yes, 5 kids. I actually have a grandson as well. My oldest has a son. Yeah. So I go by Graham when I'm with Nathaniel. Yeah. So lots of kids, 2 jobs, the good life. It's great.
That's awesome. I don't know how I don't have any kids and I struggle to keep up with my tasks that I have currently. That's so funny. So what drew you into the nursing profession? Was that something that you knew that you had wanted to do since you were young?
Yeah, well, nursing, no. Honestly, because I feel like media failed me, and I thought nurses just like wipe butts and follow doctor's orders. I didn't realize all that nurses actually know and do.
You do more than that?
Well, I do a couple more things than just that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So in high school, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up because I want to help sick people. And that's just my dream. I love caring for the sick. The idea of being with someone who is suffering to me is like such a privilege. And so in high school, I volunteered at the hospital so I could like see some doctors in action. And about 2 weeks in, I asked the dumb question to the charge nurse. I was like, hey, so like, when did the doctors come and like take care of the sick people and like give them their medicine and like help them, like change their dressings and like talk to them about their diagnosis? And she was so sweet. And she was like, sweetheart, the doctors already came and went before you got here. They've already done their rounds. The nurses are the ones that are caring for all of these patients on this floor. And you think I would have noticed that point, but I was just like waiting to see some doctors, And so from that point forward, the rest of the summer, well, now I'm like buddying up with the nurses and watching what they're doing and going in the rooms with them. And like, I realized, oh my gosh, there's so much more to healthcare besides doctors. There's a lot more going on in this hospital. And then the idea of being a doctor and having like 30 or 40 patients that you're overseeing, I just feel like I'd be spread so thin. I want to be the one that gives the medicine. I want to be the one that does the thing. I want to be the one that holds their hand and has the time to do that. And so it was kind of a difficult transition in my mind because I had already told everyone I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up, to then shift and say, actually, I don't know if that's a good fit for how I'm wired. I think I want to be a nurse. But then, seeing what nurses know and do and the role they play in healthcare, I was like, yeah, that's definitely how I'm wired. I think I can do this whole nursing thing. Never did I ever think I would be an ER nurse or a rapid response nurse. I thought I would be like a pediatric nurse or like labor and delivery. But no, I've never worked either one. I actually really love caring for people on the worst day of their life, and the opportunity to care for someone in crisis and to walk a family through a difficult time. To me, I love that. I think people assume like, oh, you're an ER nurse for all these years, you must be an adrenaline junkie. And to be honest, I am not. Like, I'm boring, right? I'm a mother of 5 kids. I drive a minivan. I crochet for fun. Like, I'm not like hopping out of helicopters and like skydiving and bungee jumping and like, no, I really just want to like be with my people. And I'm not a adrenaline junkie. What draws me to emergency medicine specifically is the opportunity to care for someone in crisis. I thrive in that environment. I do a good job bringing calm to the chaos. And I just feel like if I'm wired in that way, then I should use that skill set to help others. So here I am 21 years later, still responding to emergencies and trying my best to bring some calm to chaos.
What makes you think that you're good at doing that? Like bringing the calm to the chaos, especially at such a young age, because you said in high school you're doing kind of a shadow. So like, what made you feel that way so young?
How much trauma do you want to unpack today, Sam?
Oh, girl, let's get all the tea. I'm so ready.
So, my mom died when I was a kid, and there was just chaos in my house. My dad was having a hard time with the transition, and my younger sister. So I've just always been someone who like runs to the scene of something bad happening. Like this is so silly thinking back now, but I remember as like a 9-year-old going to Disney World, packing my fanny pack with like first aid stuff, because you never know what could happen at Disney World when you're 9 years old. I was gonna like rush to the scene to save someone with my band-aids. But I've always been someone who just loves to care for other people. I don't know, I'm just wired that way. And my whole life, when anyone else was going through a hard time, either I was the one they would reach out to, or I would find myself being drawn to the person in the room that was suffering. Or I've never shied away from emotional challenges. Like holding space with someone who is suffering is not, I mean, I guess it's difficult, but it's not something that I like avoid at all. I am here for it. So I think that because of all of the challenges that I face as a young person, having to like support my sister and my dad, and there are several other things that I don't want to go into detail about today. I think I've always loved the opportunity to be there for people who are having a hard time. And then the feedback that I've gotten my whole life is, thank you for being here. You've been so comforting. Your presence has been so helpful. You've really helped me calm down. You've helped me process. Like my whole life I've been told this. So that kind of feedback has like reinforced the idea that, okay, maybe not only do I love this, I also am pretty good at this. So I want to continue to get better at it. So again, I thought I would be a labor and delivery nurse because, as you know, I love children. But I ended up not going that route in high school. Not high school, excuse me. My first year in nursing school, I tried to get a job in the hospital as a CNA in labor and delivery, and they would not hire me, probably because I was 18 years old and didn't know anything. But the ER, however, they took me in. So I started as an ER nurse tech with zero intention of being an ER nurse. I just wanted to learn more in the ER, and I fell in love with that environment. Surprisingly, I also had to grow up really fast because you see the worst of the worst in the ER, like the worst injuries and the worst side of humanity in the emergency room. But I loved it. I loved the chaos. I loved being with people like on really like difficult situations. I'm able to face people who are not maybe acting their kindest, best version of themselves. Like, does it phase me? I've been through much harder stuff. I've been yelled at by much meaner people. Like, I can handle the drunk who has an issue with the wait time. You know what I'm saying? Like, not phasing Sarah. And so, yeah, I just decided the ER was a good fit for me, and they hired me right out of nursing school. Again, I don't know what they were thinking. I was 19 years old, but they hired me, and I loved it, and I was there for many, many years. Actually, I worked in the ER that hired me as a new grad for 8 years. Left and went CVICU, did rapid response nursing, got my master's degree in nursing education, came back to the same ER that I started in as the nurse educator, which is kind of like a full circle experience. Like they believed in me when I knew nothing, and then I came back to teach them how to be an ER nurse. But yeah, it's been a very rewarding profession for sure. Did I even answer your question? Welcome to Sarah's Squirrel Brain. There's lots of tangents to come, Sam.
So you've talked about how easy it's been for you and how good you've been told that you're great at all of this stuff. Tell me about some of the challenges that you've experienced while doing this career.
Oh gosh. I think that most of the challenge I have faced has not actually been as much the patients. I mean, yes, there's mean patients, there's rude patients, there's privileged patients, there's ungrateful patients, like whatever. That's not actually the challenge. The challenge for me is seeing suffering that I can't fix. Like the system that has all these healthcare disparities and people that don't have access to healthcare, or it's just unfair the amount of access that is given, or like their ability to navigate the healthcare system is just like that to me is more heartbreaking. Like patients that we can't transfer to the best rehab center because their insurance doesn't cover it, so they have to go to the shitty rehab center. Like that kind of stuff, it really weighs on like your moral fortitude after a while. So that's been a challenge, watching that happen. Watching the healthcare system at large that we have in our country that so prioritizes profit over the patients, over the staff. There's been a lot lately in the news with how healthcare professionals are treated and how unjust that is. I have been injured by patients. I have had close coworkers who were injured by patients. Gosh, just last week, a brand new nurse that I work with was sexually assaulted by a patient. Like that kind of stuff is what has been difficult to show up to. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think the biggest challenges are not so much like the actual patients. To me, it's a privilege to care for people. It's the frustrations and the anger that I feel with the system that I think has been the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. The healthcare system is kind of a joke right now. So I agree with you. A lot of the challenges I think are not necessarily to do with our own jobs, but with the systems themselves. Can you tell me about maybe one of your more impactful moments?
Oh man, I have so many awesome stories of like humanity at its best. I think the one that I always go back to in my mind, like I relive this moment all the time. Um, there at the height of COVID, when like everyone is being intubated, everyone's crashing from respiratory arrest. I remember I was called to, like I can like very clearly remember like the room number and how the room was laid out and the patient, what he looked like. So it's this younger guy. He's maybe like late 40s, early 50s. And I walk in the room and he's got the BiPAP on and he's coughing up blood into the BiPAP, just like blood splatter into the mask. And he's a little dusky. Like he looks like he's like peri-arrest. Like he looks terrible, right? But he's still coherent. And he's working so hard to breathe. And I go up to him and I said, "Sir, I'm Sarah, I'm the rapid response nurse. I see how hard you're working to breathe. you've done such a good job working so hard and working with this BiPAP, but I think it's time for us to help you out and put the breathing tube in because this BiPAP is not enough. And he like rips the BiPAP off and looks at me dead in the face. And he said, "You can't let me die. My daughter gets married this weekend and I have to walk her down the aisle." And now I have learned at this point in my career, you do not say to a patient, "Don't worry, I won't let you die," because I have no control over that. I have things I can do to try my best to prevent that from happening, but I cannot control who lives or dies. I never again will ever say, "You'll be fine." I never say that. I've learned my lesson the hard way on that one. So instead, I said to him, "I know this is scary, but you are in such good hands. Me and my team are going to fight hard to save your life and get you to your daughter's wedding." Again, I did not know if he was going to live or die, but I knew with confidence that my team and me, we're going to be busting our asses to save this guy's life, right? Okay, so I remember saying that to him, and then he says to me, "I'm putting my life in your hands." And I was like, whoo, that's a heavy weight, but like, let's do this. Okay, so RSI, intubate, get in the ICU. This guy was so sick for months in the ICU, but he did recover. He was one of the wins that actually like made it out. And I think that part of it was like he wanted to walk his daughter on the aisle. Obviously, her wedding was canceled or postponed. Her wedding was postponed. But ultimately, he did. He walked his daughter down the aisle. Like, he survived. But I just will always remember like the blood spray and the mask and like the heaviness in the room and like, "Don't let me die. Like, you can't let me die." I will always remember that. And then that he actually had a good recovery, which so many did not, but he actually lived. I'll remember that moment forever. I'll remember the moment where we intubated and also the day that he was discharged from the hospital. We had like a line of people that had cared for him, all like cheering for him as he was like being discharged out of our facility because we all had invested so much in saving this patient and getting him home to his family.
I can tell that it brings you a lot of pleasure because of the way you're responding and answering the question. You just have a huge smile on your face and you're super excited to tell it. So thank you for sharing that. I did notice that you said you learned your lesson and you'll never do that again, though. Are you okay sharing that story?
Sure. Yeah. All right. So I'm 18 years old. I was a nurse tech in the ER, and a woman came in. She had walked out of her bedroom, and I don't even know the person had come into her house and slit her neck, slit her carotids. So she's just gushing blood from her neck. And so the team is like setting up to repair that. And they're like, "Sarah, can you hold pressure?" Because I'm the only one that has no skills to like actually fix this patient, right? I'm the nurse tech. I'm a CNA. And so, but I do have fingers. I can hold pressure. So I'm on a stool, towering over her, pressing into her neck, holding pressure. And she looks up at me and says, "Don't let me die, honey. Don't let me die." And I said, "I'm not going to let you die. Like, we're going to save your life today. You just keep holding on." Again, naive, young. I'm 18 years old. I really think like, look how good my team is. I love these people. I have the best team of doctors and nurses around me. Like, I'm holding pressure as hard as I can. Like, yes, we're going to save your life today, right? No, we did not. She ended up passing. Like, we couldn't get ahead of the blood loss. It was so severe. So I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that again. I've also like, I remember early on I had this phrase like, "Not on my watch, you're not dying." And I'm like, that's kind of a prideful thing to say. Again, the savior mentality. Like, I really had to work through this. "Not on my watch, you're not dying. Not today." And I've had to take that one back too, because I've had patients that I was pretty confident we got this, right? Like, "Oh, sweet, I got him hemodynamically stable. I got him intubated. We got this." And nope, there's things out of our control. And so I have switched my verbiage to, when I feel the need to say, "Don't worry, don't be afraid," instead I just say, "It's okay to be scared. You're in good hands. I understand how scary this must be. I'm going to take good care of you. My team's going to fight for you." Like, those things I can say with confidence, with complete honesty. I can predict the future that, yes, I will take good care. That I know. But I cannot predict with certainty the outcome of every patient. So, lesson learned.
That's a heavy lesson to learn too. That one's hard. Would you say that that was one of like the worst experiences that you've ever had in this career?
The woman with the Bleeding carotid? Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely
No.
not.
I mean, that was hard, but like I knew her for a couple minutes. Like I didn't know her for very long. I think the hardest is losing our own. We lost a
Mm.
lot of nurses with COVID. One in particular, so I told you that I was the ER nurse educator because I might cry in this. I'm gonna do my best to keep it together.
That's okay.
So there's this one particular nurse that I had the privilege of training. He was a paramedic for many years, actually before going to nursing school, and then decided he wanted to do the nursing life, and so went back to school for nursing. So yeah, training him was super easy. He already knew so much. I was just basically show him like the nursing angle of how to care for patients. But he was one of those guys that was just like hilarious, like constantly cracking jokes. He always had like goofy scrub tops, like Star Wars and like Superman. Like he was just a really fun person to be around. Um, just a little more details about just so you can fall in love with him as much as I loved him. Our hospital has his like annual Christmas event. We have like a duck pond outside the hospital, and me and this person we volunteered to do the face painting booth. And so the two of us are not artists, but we painted like hundreds of kids' faces, and he was totally like trumping me on the face paint. Like kids wanted to be in his line because he did such a better job making all of the artwork. But yeah, and he would just like make all the kids laugh and just connect with people. He's just one of those people that's so easy to love. Okay, so he's a nurse and he got COVID. And I remember being called to rapid response and he was the patient. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are you so sick? You're 30 years old. 30 years old. But I was like, whatever. He's healthy. He's got no medical history. Like 30 years old. Of course he's gonna make it. But you're sick. So I'm gonna take you to the PCU. And the next day another rapid to the ICU because he just was not responding well to all of our interventions. So he's in the ICU, and I remember being like, okay, so he's in the ICU. At least he'll be like, 1 to 2 with a nurse. I can really focus on optimizing him. And I got to work the next day, and I get a text from him, and he's like, please come see me. And again, this is the funny guy, but he was not funny. He was scared in this moment. And I got to his room, and I look on the monitor. He's on BiPAP, and his SAT's 82%, maxed out. And like he's just not looking good. He's so scared, and he knows he's getting sicker. And basically we called his girlfriend. I got her on speakerphone. I let them talk, and together they're like, yeah, it's time to intubate. She's a nurse as well, an ER nurse as well. So it's time to intubate, and I didn't even have like the capacity to do anything medical in that moment. And so the team's like swarming all around me, setting up for intubation. And I'm just literally sitting at his bedside, holding his hand, and he's like clenching his hand, like almost like a fist to his chest. Again, this is not like the funny guy that I know and love. He's scared because he is dying of COVID. And so I held his hand and talked him through what was happening. And I watched the ET tube go in, and I just remember like holding his hand and feeling there were so many tears in my mask. It was like a puddle around my chin because I was crying so hard to think like I can't believe we might actually lose him, like this beautiful soul that I've got to like care for and also like teach. And I watch him grow up as a paramedic and as a nurse, and here he is just so critically ill. We gave it our everything for him because he's one of our own. He ended up going on ECMO. He was on ECMO for weeks and just like could not turn him around. Like the best modern medicine, we're a very well renowned like ECMO center. We couldn't turn him around, and so it was a huge loss. The day that we lost him, when we had to actually turn the ECMO off because he just wasn't recovering. And I remember, after we said goodbye and he passed, it was like the middle of my shift. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's still more shift to go. And I went back to our office, our response office, and I was just like, I could not like contain myself. I was just crying so hard. The kind of crying like like you're like get your breath. And I remember there's a smaller hospital that's like close to us, and they were sending us, we call it the bus. They have this like extra large ambulance for like mass casualty situations. So they would send the bus and go pick up the sickest patients from the smaller hospital and bring them to our hospital. So it was like a bus day that they were bringing all these people. And I knew the bus was coming at 5. And my coworker's like, Sarah, just go home. Like, you are a mess. Like, how are you going to care for people if you're in this state? I was like, Marissa, the bus is coming at 5. Like, I can't go home. I can't leave you with the bus coming, because I know that when patients get off the bus, they start crumping. We had done this before. Last time the bus came, we had like 7 rapid responses, like back to back to back to back to back. Like, it was rough. Like, I can't leave you. And she's like, no, you're going to. You need to go home. And so I actually left, and I've never done this before in my whole career, but I left the middle of my shift. Again, I'm on like day 30 of working back to back to back. I mean, this is the worst of the worst COVID season for our area. I went home, I laid down, I fell asleep immediately. I slept for like 2 hours. I woke up, I said a prayer. I asked God for strength to keep going, because I knew I still feel called to care for these patients. And I put my scrubs back on. I went back to the hospital. We unloaded the bus. We stabilized all those patients. And that was maybe the worst day of my career. It was, I mean, not in the sense of like, oh, nursing is so bad. It was just, there was so much loss. There was so much tragedy, just the heaviness that I felt. And knowing that this is what I want to do. This is what I'm called to do. This sucks right now, but I have to find a way to like process this and not just push it down and keep going. And so I'm really glad that my friend told me to go home and rest. I think I did need to physically rest and like emotionally kind of like take a load off, because I would not have been able to just power through the rest of that shift without taking a breather. So I don't know. I could tell a lot more stories that were rough too in my career, but that one will always stay with me, because I literally broke. I literally was like incapacitated to function because my heart was so broken. I had seen so much loss in such a short period of time.
It
But
sounds like a huge loss.
I have processed. I have recovered. I went to his funeral. I went to the memorial. I mean, I've gone out with friends and poured a beer out for him. Like I've faced it. It's hard. It's sad. It was such a huge loss. But I think the only way that we can continue caring for the sick and seeing so much repeated trauma is to actually face it. I've seen a lot of really amazing healthcare workers leave the profession altogether. And it's not because they were too weak or because they weren't smart enough or sharp enough. It's because like it's just so much to face. And so one thing that I have chosen to do is, instead of just like pushing it down and keep going, push it down and keep going, I face the hard emotions. I cry the tears. I am not afraid to cry in front of a patient, in front of my coworkers. Like, I'd rather like process it and deal with it than push it down and then it rear its head at a much more inconvenient time. I mean, I very often drive home from my shifts in complete silence. Not because I don't like music or podcasts. Obviously, I love podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. But for the ride home from shifts, I usually take that time to like kind of review what happened, kind of relive some of the hard stuff that I saw, maybe interactions I had with people, with patients, like debrief myself about all that I experienced and like start to try to heal from it or process it. Because once I get home to all my kids, there's not much space for me to process everything as much. And so I'm definitely taking time to talk through the hard stuff and using that opportunity, that quiet space on my ride home to process this. And I think that's how I'm still able to show up healthy and whole after 21 years of doing this crazy emergency stuff, and still feel like I'm not like pouring from an empty cup, but trying to fill my cup up on my days off and show up as a whole person.
That's phenomenal. And what a great story and a memory to his life that you get to share and hold this so dear, I'm sorry you went through that. We lost one of our firefighters, somebody that I went through my fire academy with when I was younger, and he was young too. He was in his young 30s, and he got COVID, and he came up and he was put on ECMO, but he just couldn't handle it anymore, unfortunately. So that's rough. That's rough on everybody.
I think that COVID was very humbling, because you kind of get to when your career, like, oh yeah, like this one's gonna recover, there's no hope for that one, or this one's gonna do okay. Like for COVID, I realized I have no predictor ability with this particular disease. Like patients that I was like, oh yeah, they'll be fine. No. And patients I was like, there's no way they're gonna make it. Somehow the 90-year-old's being discharged, recovered from COVID. Like it was such a humbling epidemic. So I've learned a lot not to make any predictions because so much is out of our hands, especially a disease that we're still learning about as we're treating patients for it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. When we talked last, you had discussed some medical problems. Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Sure.
Because you were saying you might have to get a pacemaker, right? Or a
A defibrillator.
yes.
Yeah. So, should I just start at the beginning? Like,
Well, I was going to ask you if you felt comfortable talking about your mother's passing because that's a huge part of it, right?
yeah, yeah. So when I was 9, my mom, who was totally healthy and 32 at the time, died suddenly in her sleep. I know she died of arrhythmia because they shocked her multiple times and couldn't get her back. But it was 1994. Like, we didn't know much about young people in arrhythmias back then. So they're like, she probably had long QT syndrome. That was kind of like the assumption because there's and 94, like, what else could it be that would cause someone who's young and healthy otherwise to die of an arrhythmia? So I've been checked for long QT syndrome. My sister's been checked. We did not have it, so we think that we're good to go. Well, fast forward many, many years. I have my mom's cousin was diagnosed with a condition called FLNC1 cardiomyopathy. It's basically people who have FLNC1. It's a genetic variant where you're missing a protein that allows your heart muscle to conduct electricity properly. And so these people that have perfectly like good functioning hearts as far as mechanically goes, like their EF is fine, have random arrhythmias. Specifically ventricular arrhythmias. The interesting thing is there's no symptoms typically before. The first symptom is VFib. So it's one that isn't always diagnosed in time, you know? My mom's cousin, however, was defibrillated and survived and got an ICD. And since then, she's been shocked a couple times with her ICD. And so she has lived. But thank God she discovered she has this genetic condition. So now that she has this genetic condition, her doctors are like, well, has anyone else in your family died at a young age? And she's like, oh, yes, actually, my cousin died at 32 randomly of an arrhythmia. Okay, does that person have any children? Well, yes, they do. Well, they need to get tested. So that would be me and my sister. And turns out we both have this FLNC1 cardiomyopathy. And so that means at any point I could have an arrhythmia. And then the other thing with FLNC1 cardiomyopathy is that with time, patients that have this variant typically develop dilated cardiomyopathy as well. So I am in the process of doing the full workup for this condition. What we know so far is that both me and my sister have it. We both have matching EFs of 50%. For those that are familiar, ejection fraction is the percentage of blood that's squeezed out every time the ventricle ejects blood. Normal is about 65, maybe even 70% of your blood is ejected out. So only 50% of mine is ejected. So that's not terrible, but it's not normal for someone who's young and otherwise healthy like me. So yeah, definitely something's going on there. And so the recommended treatment is to get an ICD placed, so an internal defibrillator. So if I were to go into an arrhythmia, rather than having to get an AED brought to me, it's just already hanging out ready to go inside my chest. So here's the part that is just gonna piss you off, Sam. My sister's insurance covers it, covers the ICD. I just found out literally Monday that mine does not.
Are you kidding me?
And so now, oh, I'm not kidding you at all. I pay good money for insurance that's provided through my hospital, and they don't cover the ICD that I need. So I'm currently in the process of like repealing that and trying to figure out how to get it paid for because I don't happen to have $150,000 just hanging out for this life-saving intervention. So yeah, I'm still like on the journey figuring it out, but I do know I have this condition. I am so grateful that I discovered that I have it and that I've gotten so far an extra 8 years that my mom did not get. I do need an ICD placed. Again, right now there's no like scarring in my ventricles that they can see, so they don't feel like I'm just gonna like drop dead any second. But this is such a new diagnosis. Like, we're just learning about it in the less than 10 years. And so I think there's lots of people that have this that don't even know that they have it because genetic testing is not that common. Like, I would have never got genetic testing if it wasn't for my mom's cousin who had this arrhythmia and was like, she decided to get tested. Like, I would have never thought to do that. But yeah, this is I think my doctor said there's maybe like 100 people in our country that have this. I actually joined the FLNC1 cardiomyopathy Facebook group, and I was the 19th person to join. And
Wow.
I messaged all the people in the group and asked them about their experience and what's life like with this diagnosis, and do you have an ICD, and has it shocked you before? And all of them had a story remarkably similar to mine. They were all like, yeah, my cousin died at 35, my mom died, my sister died, my someone really young died, and it was surprising, and so we did genetic testing and we found we have this thing and it runs in my family. So yes, that's what I'm facing right now. I'm trying to balance like the weight of this, like you have the condition that killed your mom, but also gratitude and being like, but you are still alive and you're otherwise healthy and you can still work and you can still live your best life. But I will tell you, getting a diagnosis like that, like the idea that like I might not wake up tomorrow, that will definitely change the way you spend your time. You know, like things that maybe would have like pissed me off before, I would have like spent a bunch of time, wasting time being frustrated about. I'm like, I don't got time for that. I don't got time to be upset about that. I don't got time for those kind of people. I don't got time for that situation. I don't have time to get worked up about this kind of thing because time is so precious,
Mm-hmm.
Even things like, my daughter really wants to, like, I'm trying to give an example. She's learning her like sounds, like how you can put the C and the H together to make the ch sound. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, every mom should be excited about doing that with their kid. But sometimes I'm like, I am so exhausted myself. I don't want to sit here and listen to you count to 100. She's like, I can count to 100. Look, watch, mommy. But now I'm like, yes, you want to count to 100? Let's hear it again. Go, ready, go. Let's hear. Count to 100. She's like, do you want to play I Spy? I'm like, yes, I want to play I Spy. Like, I would, let's play it. We're in an all gray car, but yes, let's I Spy something in this car that's not gray. Let's do it. Yeah, it just makes you like reconfigure what's important and how you spend your time and how you spend your money. And but instead of being like, well, I want to blow it all on a cruise and I want to go like get the coolest car ever, instead I'm just thinking like, how can I buy back time? For me,
Yeah.
it's time, not stuff. And so how can I spend more time with my family? How can I be present with my patients? How can I make the most of the time that I have? It really makes you question things a little bit more. So,
Yeah, I imagine it does. So what are your plans for the next 5 to 10 years?
well, I hope to have an ICD in my chest soon once I can give it to the insurance company that's worth the money. So that's thing number one. I I have so many ideas. So I have one online course. It's called Rapid Response and Rescue. It's a 1 hour course. And basically it's just an introduction to how I approach emergencies. But let me tell you, Sam, I have so many course ideas in my head, and I want to have the time to like record myself and create them and get them out into the world. So that is like my 5 year plan. I want to record all of these courses and actually make them available to people for two reasons. One, I feel like what I have to say, the way that I can teach things, it is digestible for people. I think I do have a way of communicating where people can understand hard concepts. And so I want to be able to use that skill to help more people. Obviously, I teach constantly at the hospital I work at with, the couple hundred nurses that work there with me. But I really love the opportunity to help nurses literally across the globe through courses. So I want to make these courses. Additionally, the opportunity to sell courses online gives me that more time back with my family. And so it is a win-win situation for me. The challenge is finding the time to record the darn thing in the first place. It's all up
Yep.
here. I even have like presentations prepared. It's just taking the time to sit down and record it when I also have a podcast that I'm releasing, and I have Rapid Response Academy that I go live every Friday for, and I still work in the hospital 24 hours a week, and I still have my 5 kids and all of their functions and their things that are important to them. So it's just finding the time to do that. But it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen soon. Maybe if I get the darn ICD while I'm on light duty, I will be stuck at home and it will force me to actually record these courses. So maybe that'll be like the silver lining in having to have this procedure done, is I'm like, okay, I guess I can't respond to emergencies, so I'll sit at my house and just talk about them and record myself while I'm doing it.
That's the best way. You'll get it done. I have faith that you'll do it. I just want to give you the opportunity, Sarah, to discuss anything that you feel that we didn't talk about, and also let us know how we can find you.
Sure. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I do have a little bit of a soapbox that I like to mention all the time. And that is we need good healthcare providers. We are losing them by the droves. And I think there's a couple things that need to shift for us to keep people in the profession. There are things that I don't have as much control over, like financial stuff and staffing ratios and all that kind of stuff. Like that is definitely something that needs to be discussed. The role that I feel like that I play in shifting this is shifting the culture around how we care for each other in the field. So like this whole eat their young mentality and the hazing that happens to new nurses, new paramedics, like that has got to stop. Like it angers me to no end when I see the bully on the unit making someone feel stupid. I'm like, you realize you are turning someone away from the profession, and we need more great healthcare professionals. Not only do I not want them to leave, but I want them to like thrive when they're here. So like you can keep being a bitch or a jerk and making them feel stupid. And what are we benefiting? Like there is no benefit to that. It's not even going to make you feel better as a person. In fact, it makes you a shittier person. If you would just take a minute and share your knowledge and find something positive to say to build this person up, maybe they'll be an even better healthcare provider. Maybe they'll actually stay in the profession and be able to come alongside you and care for these sick people. So like we have important work to do. So stop letting your ego get in the way of doing that important work. So that is my that is my soapbox that I would love for people to hear. So if you are new to the profession and you're listening, please don't leave. Please find the good people that can support you and mentor you. They do exist in the world. Please listen to my podcast. I hope to bring that encouragement and support to people who are still like navigating the challenges of emergencies. But yeah, find that person that can mentor you. And if you've been doing this for a bit and you are listening, please find someone that you can pour into, because not only is it beneficial to that person because they have someone that can like give them wisdom and insight and be a listening ear, but it's also so life-giving to be able to give to someone else and walk them through the challenges of this profession. Like I think about, okay, so like my kids, when I take them to the beach for the first time, I've seen the beach 100 times. I live in Florida, right? The beach is just around the corner. But I remember for each child, the first time I took them to the beach, I was like, this is beach. And they're like, oh, beach. Like there's sand and there's water. So like for them to see it through their eyes is so like, oh yeah, the beach is awesome. I love the beach too. So same thing with healthcare. When you get to walk alongside someone who's new to all this, they're like, oh my gosh, like massive transfusion protocol. This is so cool. Like, oh my gosh, we just defibrillated them and they woke up. Like, that's crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I did CPR. We got ROSC. Like the opportunity to like walk with someone and to process all this that's new for them. It reminds me how awesome this stuff is that we get to do. Like we get to be with people and save lives. And even when we can't save them, we got the opportunity to be with someone in their final moments. Like that is a privilege, and to see that through the eyes of someone who's new to this, I think is very restorative and like life-giving and rejuvenating as a healthcare practitioner. So yes, anyway, sorry, I had a lot to say on that one. The takeaway is be a mentor and find someone who can mentor you to keep striving for excellence so we can take the best care of these patients.
Great advice. And where can we find you, Sarah?
Oh yeah, that. So on all social media platforms, I am the Rapid Response RN. Not because I'm the only one, but because Rapid Response RN was already taken and I had to put another word in there because it was already taken. So I'm the Rapid Response RN. And then my podcast is called Rapid Response RN Podcast. But if you are not an RN, you are still welcome to listen to my podcast. It is not nursing specific. I talk so much about the emergency itself and how to respond to emergencies in general. So yes, there's my podcast. And then I have my 1-hour mini course, which is rapidresponseandrescue.com. And then I started this new thing that I love called Rapid Response Academy, which is like an online mentorship community for nurses, all types of nurses. There are rapid response nurses, there are critical care transport nurses, there's ICU nurses, there's ER nurses, there's med-surg nurses, all on this journey towards being awesome for our patients. leveling up our games together. And I teach live every Friday in Rap Response Academy. I think that's all the things. There's also several conferences that I was speaking at in the coming year, but if you follow me on social media, you'll hear all about them that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much. And I look forward to seeing some of your classes and stuff. Again, to thank you for joining us on the Noon podcast today. It's been an amazing conversation. I love talking with you. It's so good when somebody is so excited and enthusiastic about their job, even after 20 years. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being an influence on a lot of the younger people that are coming in, and even on some of the people who've been here, again, 20 plus years like we have. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sam.
You're welcome. I hope you have a good day, Sarah.
You too.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show and want to show your support, be sure to check out the Noon merch store on Bonfire. Find the link in the description below. Also, if you have any guest suggestions or if you're interested in being a guest on Noon yourself, visit the website at www.samspursuit.com to get in touch.